One of the storylines I was really excited about that you mentioned was mentioned coming up to Ghost Story was the island and his relationship to it. And last chapter we got a name but not much else. Are we gonna have to wait a while before we get more of that?
Or you're going to have to wait a while until you find out what's going on the island?
At least some more.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait until at least next book.
Next book or books after that?
No, we should actually be able to get some real stuff on Demon Reach next book. And you'll find, you'll get an idea of why it's there and why Dresden is probably the worst possible person to be in charge of it. Yeah, really, Dresden's the worst possible person to be in charge of almost every story it's involved in, but that's just kind of how he rolls. Right here. Why did I cut my hair? Largely to shock my wife. I walked out of the house with about a 3-month writer beard and long hair down the middle of my back, and got it cut off and walked back in with the crew cut and the beard gone, and waited for her to flip out because my hair's been that long since I was about 20. Waited for her to flip out, and we had one of those conversations where she talks and talks about looking up from what she's doing. You know, I think she was playing solitaire or something, and just carrying on a conversation. And finally, the fun of waiting to jump on it, it sort of went away, and I just sort of sighed and sat down and started watching TV. And maybe 5-10 minutes after that, she goes, "Oh my God! If we had been having a conversation, I would have shot you right here." Over here, glasses.
Yeah, you were saying about 20 books. When did you decide? Kind of ties in. My question was plotting and how far along you, because you do an excellent job of pulling stuff from previous stories, bringing them back.
Okay, I've written 20 books. So how much of it did I have plotted?
Right.
And the answer to that was I had 20 books plotted when I started writing them. After my teacher said the first one was gonna go, she thought it would sell. I said, well, I've kind of got an idea for the story. It'd take about 20 books. You think that would be okay? And she gives me this very dry look and says, "Yeah, I think if you can sell a 20-book series, you'll be doing fine." And not realizing at the time how impossible that was going to be to sell a 20-book series to somebody, I went ahead and did it. So, you know, I've been very fortunate in my stupidity, professionally speaking. No.
Okay, I'm aware my question's kind of cheating, but are we going to see more of Nicodemus and or Mavra? I know they're two completely different villains, and hopefully they never team up because that would be awful. But
are we going to see more of Nicodemus or Mavra? Nicodemus will show up on schedule.
Yay!
And yeah, Mavra's not done yet either, but she eventually probably will be. And I'll leave that at that. The question was, is Nicodemus, or when are we going to see Nicodemus or Mavra again? I said, if I talk any louder, they're going to start getting feedback, and that hurts my ear. The question was, when are we going to see Nicodemus and Mavra again? The answer was, Nicodemus will show up on schedule, which you can figure out if you stop to look at things, I think. And Mavra will show, and Mavra's story is also not yet done.
We went to the Codex. Why did you end it where you did, knowing that the threat was still viable?
Why did I end the Codex where I did, knowing that the threat was still viable? The threat was viable, but it's not going to show up for a while. They had won the day, and much of the drama that was going to take place afterwards was going to be stuff like, you know, fighting over where the new Fury roads got built, and who got the contracts to do the kind of, you know, the projects that were going to happen in order to rebuild everything. And that struck me as a little bit less quickly paced than I would be good at writing. I need to blow things up, or everybody would be bored stiff with me. That said, if I do go back to the Alera books, which I may well do one day, it'll be a couple of generations in the future, after, you know, they've set up the university, after Tavi's radically altered the way that people use their Furies. It'll be a much steampunkier Alera, if we would like that. But that could still be fun there, because there's still going to be some characters who are alive. So. Let's see, right here. Yeah.
I'd like to know, with 13 books, how do you organize your own lore? So when you're fact-checking yourself, how do you even accomplish this?
Okay, with 13 books, how do I organize my own lore and fact check myself, considering there's all this stuff there. And the answer is A. The people in the Beta Foo reading group are really good at picking up on that stuff, particularly Priscilla. Yes, she's a machine. She's a terminator of continuity. B, I go look on Wikipedia. No, I'm serious. You guys know this stuff far better than I do. And that's not even a joke because, you know, when I write a book, by the time I'm finished with a book, I've seen 7 or 8 slightly different versions of that book. Plus, I have in my head all the versions I could have wrote and decided not to write for whatever reason. So I've got several possible versions to go along with all the slightly different versions, and my facts get muddled quickly. So, yeah, I go check Wikipedia because you guys are more on top of it than I am. Right here.
What was your motivation behind Curses, and where does it fit into the Dresden universe?
What was my motivation behind Curses, and where does it fit into the Dresden universe? I wanted to write a story. I wanted to write a story about the Billy Goat curse that the Cubs have labored under for more than a century. Just because it was in the news that year. And where does it fall in the series? I think it falls right before Deadbeat. I think is where I put it. I'd have to go check my notes to be sure. But that's where it is.
That's not in the side job.
Yeah, that's the story that's not in Side Jobs. It's in the Naked City anthology. I'm going to put it in the next group of short stories, which I'll probably call, you know, being as original as I am, More Jobs. But there's going to be more short stories there because there were a couple that got missed, and I want to have them all in anthologies so somebody can pick up one paperback, and say, here, I've got them all. At the back, waving the book high in the air. Well, I was impressed with your endurance, that's all. What?
Is Mac ever going to speak more than 10 words?
Is who ever...
Mac.
Mac. Gosh, people.
We're trying to help.
Ow, thank you for helping. I said, stop helping me. Is Mac ever going to speak more than 10 words? Not for a while. He's not a man of many words, as most truly dangerous people are. Let's see. Right here.
You made mention earlier about you got a name for something, and it's something that always bugs me when I'm doing like role playing. How do you come up with names, and is there like a process, or you just go, Susan sounds good, we'll go with that? Something that starts with M.
Yeah, how do I come up with names? Is there a process, or do I just come up with something? Yeah, first I say, can I name this character with an M? You know, is that even possible? Yes, no? All right, well, it's not. I guess I'll find a different name now. Sometimes I want there to be a meaning behind the name that is going to be significant to the character. Sometimes I don't. But for the most part, I just kind of drop them in there. If it's somebody I'm designing way ahead of time, like a major villain or something like that, then I will usually make the name significant to their character. Otherwise, no. I mean, I'll just grab a name. I've occasionally picked up a phone book and went foom, foom, like that, and picked 2 different names and said that's the character's name. With the iPad in the air. How do I approach creating a new character when I create new characters? Okay, first I will say that is a fine turkey you've drawn there, sir. And second, the first thing you do is to figure out what the character wants and what he's going to be doing in the story. That is the most, as a writer, that's the most critical portion of writing it, is you have to figure out what their motivation is. After that, I'll decide on details of their appearance and personality. I'll decide more or less what their capabilities are, and I'll sketch out kind of a brief. This is why they're doing what they're doing in the story, and then I'll save it on a file, and I'll be able to go back to it next time I see it. Right here.
You said that you plan out things very far in advance.